Well, the landmark decision rejecting California's same-sex marriage ban sets up a complicated and unpredictable legal fight that could inspire a chain of reaction of challenges on both sides of the debate until the Supreme Court ultimately has its say. Passions are running high in the wake of the ruling, Fox News reporting. Supporters of the voter-approved Proposition 8 cast Judge Vaughn Walker's decision as a rejection of the will of 7 million California voters, while opponents hailed the ruling as a historic victory and pledged to build on the momentum. James Essex, director of the ACLU Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Project, said in a statement, "We know that this is not the end. For the time being, the district court's decision does not require the state to stop enforcing its ban." Walker, one of the 3 openly gay federal judges in the country, issued a temporary stay on his decision while he considers waiting for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to rule, but the case could ultimately end up before the Supreme Court, and before that, the arguments could have widespread impact on similar bans elsewhere in the nation. As you might imagine, I have an opinion on this, and let me explain to you where I'm coming from. This is not a federal issue at all. So the federal judge, this is another example. If you had a governor with a backbone, of course, Schwarzenegger is all for gay marriage and the rest of it. But if you had a governor with a backbone that says, hey, great ruling. Boy, I really enjoyed reading that in the paper this morning. Get bent. We're going to do what we want to do because this is not of your under your authority. Marriage, and let me explain this, folks. You know what the Constitution basically is? It's a contract. It's a contract between the states and this federal government, which is think of it as a corporation, right? Of all of the states. And the states get together, maybe an association, right? So you're a member of this association because you've got these member groups of the association. Think of it as a neighborhood association, and everybody in the neighborhood is a member of this association. But there are rules and regulations that govern the association, that being the federal government. And there's also a big rule in there, which is called the 10th Amendment, which says that what is not in this Constitution is under the authority of the states. Marriage is not in the Constitution. Never has been. It's not under the authority of the federal government. It is a state issue. And that's why, and some of you folks get hot when I say this, but that's why Vermont has a right to have gay marriage if they want to. It's just that other states, like Missouri or Tennessee or Michigan, they don't have to recognize that union. And people say, well, the Commerce Clause, they do. No, they don't. And let me explain to you why. There are plenty of examples of laws that are passed in one state that are not recognized by another. One prime example are carry laws for firearms. I have a carry permit in Tennessee, but if I go into San Francisco or someplace with restrictive gun laws, I have to follow their laws. Just because I have a permit to carry a weapon doesn't mean that I get to carry it in another state. And that's why we have reciprocity agreements with other states. And the same thing would be with gay marriage. If Vermont wants their gay marriage to be recognized in another state, they're going to have to have a reciprocity agreement to where the state agrees, oh yeah, we'll recognize this union if they move or if they come to our state, whatever the case may be. So the reason this is bad a ruling is on so many levels. First of all, it's not the federal government's business, right? But here's the more important part of all this, because what this ruling basically says is not that you can have gay marriage. What it's saying, and I want you to understand this and follow this closely, it is not saying that the Proposition 8 was bad because it banned gay marriage. What they're saying is it was bad because it limited marriage to one man and one woman. That's the important distinction here, because if you strike that down, then the legal assumption is it any configuration of people can be considered a marriage. And then you start to find out how tolerant people really are, because I've seen the blogs and the tweets and all this stuff from these leftist nutcases out in Hollywood. Oh, it's a wonderful thing. What they don't understand is this. We're going to test their tolerance because somebody's going to come along and want to marry their daughter. And I'm not talking about an underage daughter. I'm talking about a woman of age. But they're going to say, I'm a father, I'm her father, and I'm in love with her, and she's in love with me, and we should be able to get married. And then these same folks in Hollywood are going to go, ew, that's not right. Well, now we've found your boundary of tolerance, haven't we? We found how far you will go. Now, some may go for that. But then we may come back and say, well, here's a guy who wants to marry 4 other guys. Or here's a guy who wants to have 5 wives. The feminists really hate that. And they'll say, well, why do you need 5 wives? Because there's just too much housework. I need 5 wives to do all the housework. Oh, boy, the feminists will go nuts, won't they? But how can you deny this guy his 5 wives when you've said that marriage is not between one man and one woman? It's wide open. It is wide open. And the reason that people in California and other places like this are reaffirming what we level-headed, logical thinking people already know is that marriage is a union between one man and one woman is because you can't move that line, because if you obliterate that line, then there is no stopping it. And then these people of tolerance, these people that are so tolerant, we're going to find out how tolerant they are. I've done this exercise on the radio on a number of occasions where people call in and I say, well, how tolerant are you? How far do you want this to go? And you start giving them examples and they get offended by that. I had one gay gentleman who called me many years ago, and I use this very example. And he says, "What is wrong with 2 guys getting married?" I said, "What's wrong with a guy marrying his daughter?" He said, "That's sick." I said, "Exactly. You have drawn the line as to what you think is sick. I've drawn the line as far as what I think is sick. And in this case, A, it's not a federal issue, and B, the people of California have rightly decided what the configuration is going to be. That is their right as a state to decide this. And so it should be over. But now the federal government has to come in and stick their fat face in the middle of it where they have no business because it is not under their authority. Same thing with the Arizona law. Same thing with all sorts of things that go on that the federal government has taken it upon themselves to think that they are in charge of now, i.e. education. They're in charge of education, i.e. whether you can say a prayer before a ball game. It clearly states in the Constitution that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion because the individual states were left to make that decision on their own. And 50 years after we ratified the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, 50 years after that, some states had their own state religions. I'm not advocating that we have state religions, but it is up to the individual states, and that is where the point should be made on all this. This is not a federal issue, 1. And 2, once you obliterate that line of what is acceptable as far as marriage, there is no unacceptable marriage at that point. If you say there is, then you're a bigot. If you say that a guy shouldn't have 3 wives, you're a bigot. You hate polygamists. If you think that a man shouldn't be able to marry his daughter, then you're a bigot. You're an anti-incestuous. We'll come up with a word. But you get the point. These people don't realize what they're doing because, well, first of all, they're liberal and they don't realize much of anything out there. It's all based on emotion. Oh, it feels good. And that's what this whole gay marriage thing. You know what the whole gay marriage thing is about? Because it's not about rights. Because they have civil unions in California. It's not about being able to visit somebody in the hospital because you can make a contract right now that so-and-so is going to be in a civil union, that this person has all the rights afforded a wife or a husband in a situation like that. It is about moving us from tolerance to acceptance. It is about people who don't think that gay marriage is okay and really aren't too keen on gay activity, moving us from tolerance, because we tolerate a lot of things. It's moving us from tolerance to acceptance, of saying, Well, okay, I tolerate that. I understand that there are a lot of different viewpoints and people can do and live and let live, to saying, I approve of that. That's where they're wanting to take us in this country. And that's why they keep going with this gay marriage, gay marriage, gay marriage thing, because it is an approval by the rest of society and the heterosexuals. That's where it's going. That's what they want, because they have the rights. They just want the approval. And I'm telling you, the American public at large is not approving of gay activity and certainly gay marriage. And it galls them. They can't just live with that and say, okay, as long as we have the same rights as everybody else, which they do, they've got to make you accept it. They got to keep pushing it in your face. And it's time to push back.